the invisible exhaustion destroying your discipline. You wake up tired, not physically tired, mentally tired, the kind of exhaustion that follows you everywhere. You feel it when you try to focus. You feel it when you try to start something important. You feel it when you promise yourself that tomorrow will be different, only to repeat the exact same cycle again. And the dangerous part is this. Most people think this is normal. They think they just need more motivation, more discipline, more willpower. But researchers studying attention and human behavior have noticed something alarming over the last few years. The modern brain is becoming mentally exhausted at a level humans were never designed to handle. Your mind is being attacked every single day. Short videos, notifications, constant stimulation, endless scrolling, background noise, instant gratification, information overload. Your brain never fully stops consuming. Even during moments of rest, your mind is still being flooded with stimulation, and little by little, this destroys your ability to focus deeply, think clearly, and stay disciplined. This is why simple tasks now feel heavy. This is why your attention disappears after a few minutes. This is why your motivation collapses so fast. Experts in cognitive performance explain that the brain treats constant stimulation almost like a survival environment. Your nervous system stays alert all the time. Your dopamine system becomes overloaded. Your attention becomes fragmented, and eventually, your mind stops generating the energy needed for discipline. You are not lazy. You are mentally overstimulated. And if you do not understand what is happening to your brain, this exhaustion will slowly steal your ambition, your consistency, your emotional control, and your future without making any noise. But there is something even more dangerous happening beneath the surface. Most people still believe their brain is resting when it actually never disconnects. And once you understand what modern stimulation is truly doing to your mind, you will never look at your daily habits the same way again. The modern brain was not built for this. Your brain was never designed to process the amount of stimulation you consume in a single day. A few decades ago, the human mind dealt with slower environments, fewer decisions, less noise, and longer periods of silence. Today, your brain is forced to react to hundreds of microstimuli every hour. Messages, videos, alerts, tabs open everywhere. Constant comparisons, endless information, competing for your attention every second. And the worst part is that this overload feels normal now. Researchers who study attention and cognitive fatigue explain that every notification, every swipe, every fast piece of content forces your brain to shift focus. These rapid shifts consume mental energy far faster than most people realize. Even when you think you are relaxing, your brain is still working at an intense level behind the scenes. This is why you can spend hours on your phone and still feel mentally drained afterward. Your mind never enters deep recovery. It stays trapped in a cycle of fragmented attention. Scientists observe that when the brain constantly jumps between stimuli, it becomes harder to maintain focus on difficult tasks. Your tolerance for boredom decreases. Your patience weakens. Deep thinking starts feeling uncomfortable, and slowly, discipline begins to feel emotionally painful. This is why so many people sit down to work and instantly feel resistance. Not because they are weak, because their brain has been conditioned to crave constant novelty. Every short video trains your attention to expect stimulation every few seconds. Every instant reward lowers your brain's ability to tolerate effort. Over time, normal life starts feeling too slow for an overstimulated mind. Reading becomes difficult. Silence feels uncomfortable. Thinking deeply feels exhausting. And this creates a dangerous cycle. The more mentally exhausted you become, the more stimulation you seek to escape that exhaustion. Then the extra stimulation creates even more fatigue. Most people are trapped inside this loop without realizing it. Behavior specialists explain that the brain reacts very similarly to other forms of overstimulation found in nature. When animals remain in environments with constant stress signals, their nervous systems stay activated for too long. Their energy regulation changes. Their focus changes. their behavior changes. Humans are doing the same thing to themselves digitally every single day. And what comes next is where the real problem begins. Because even when you finally stop and try to rest, your brain often remains too overstimulated to recover properly. Why you feel tired even after resting. One of the most frustrating feelings in modern life is sleeping for hours and still waking up mentally exhausted. You rest your body, but your mind never truly slows down. And this confuses people. They start believing something is wrong with them. They think they are becoming lazy, unmotivated, or emotionally weak. But specialists in mental performance explain that mental exhaustion does not disappear simply because you closed your eyes for a few hours. A hyperstimulated brain struggles to recover properly. Your nervous system carries the overload into the next day. Think about what happens before most people sleep. They consume fast content, check messages, scroll through social media, switch between apps, absorb emotional information, compare themselves to others, and overload their attention until the last minutes before bed. The brain never gets a real transition into recovery mode. Researchers studying sleep and cognitive recovery observe that the brain needs periods of reduced stimulation before it can fully restore focus, emotional regulation, and mental energy. But modern routines almost completely eliminate those recovery windows. This is why your body can feel rested while your mind still feels heavy. Your brain stays noisy. Your thoughts remain accelerated. Your attention stays fragmented. And the problem becomes even worse when emotional stress enters the picture. Constant comparison, hidden anxiety about the future, pressure to perform, financial worries, information overload, and digital dependency create a silent mental tension that never fully disappears. Many people are not physically overworked. They are emotionally and cognitively overloaded. Experts notice that the brain consumes enormous amounts of energy trying to process unfinished thoughts, constant alerts, emotional tension, and excessive information. Even when you are sitting still, your mind may be running non-stop in the background. That invisible activity drains your energy more than you realize. This is why small tasks start feeling overwhelming. Simple decisions feel heavier. Your motivation disappears faster. And eventually, discipline starts feeling impossible because your brain is already exhausted before the day even begins. This is also why so many people keep searching for motivation while ignoring the real problem. The issue is not lack of ambition. The issue is that the mind cannot sustain energy under constant overstimulation. And what makes this even more dangerous is that some of the habits causing this exhaustion look completely harmless on the surface. The hidden habits silently draining your mental energy. Mental exhaustion is rarely caused by one big mistake. It is usually created by dozens of small habits repeated every single day without awareness. That is what makes it dangerous. Most people never notice the behaviors quietly destroying their focus, emotional stability, and discipline because those habits became socially normal. But behavior researchers explain that the brain does not care whether a habit is common. It only reacts to the amount of stimulation, distraction, and cognitive pressure it receives. And modern routines are full of hidden mental traps. One of the biggest is touching your phone immediately after waking up. The moment your brain leaves sleep, it gets flooded with notifications, information, messages, videos, and emotional stimulation. Before your mind even stabilizes, your attention is already being pulled in multiple directions. Your brain starts the day reacting instead of thinking. Experts in cognitive performance observed that this instantly increases mental fatigue throughout the day because the brain enters a state of continuous alertness early in the morning. Another invisible drain is constant multitasking. People believe they are being productive while switching rapidly between tasks, apps, conversations, and tabs. But neuroscientists discovered that the brain pays an energy cost every time attention shifts. The more fragmented your focus becomes, the faster your mental energy disappears. This is why many people feel exhausted even without accomplishing much. Their brains spent the entire day changing channels. Then there is the addiction to constant background stimulation. Music all the time. Videos during meals, podcasts while scrolling. Noise during work, content before sleep. Silence has almost disappeared from modern life, and specialists noticed something important about this behavior. When the brain never experiences quiet moments, it loses its ability to mentally recover and organize thoughts efficiently. Silence is not empty for the brain. Silence is repair. Even endless consumption creates hidden fatigue. Many people spend hours consuming productivity content, motivational videos, self-improvement advice, and information about success without taking real action. The brain starts confusing consumption with progress. This creates temporary emotional stimulation without real transformation. And over time, this destroys, because deep inside, the brain knows the difference between movement and action. Researchers who study habit formation explain that repeated low-effort rewards slowly reduce the brain's tolerance for difficult effort. This is why hard tasks start feeling emotionally uncomfortable. Your mind becomes conditioned to seek quick stimulation instead of meaningful progress. And underneath all these habits, there is one system controlling far more of your motivation and discipline than most people realize. Your dopamine system. Your dopamine system is being hijacked. Most people think dopamine is the chemical of pleasure. It is not. Researchers studying motivation discovered that dopamine is deeply connected to anticipation, drive, pursuit, and behavioral reinforcement. In simple terms, dopamine helps determine what your brain considers worth chasing. And right now, modern technology is manipulating that system constantly. Every notification, every swipe, every short video, every instant reward, your brain receives tiny dopamine spikes all day long. The problem is not one moment of stimulation. The problem is the frequency. Your brain never gets a chance to reset. Behavior specialists explain that when the brain becomes overloaded with fast rewards, normal efforts starts feeling less satisfying. Activities that require patience, focus, and consistency begin to feel emotionally heavier. This is why disciplined work suddenly feels painful. Reading feels slow. Studying feels exhausting. Deep focus feels uncomfortable. M'ennuie. Your brain keeps craving fast stimulation because it became conditioned to expect immediate rewards with minimal effort. This is not weakness. It is conditioning. Scientists observed similar patterns in behavioral studies involving reward systems and repeated stimulation. When the brain gets easy rewards too frequently, motivation for delayed rewards decreases. The nervous system adapts to high stimulation levels and begins rejecting slower forms of effort. This is why many people cannot stay focused for more than a few minutes anymore. Their dopamine system has been trained to escape discomfort immediately. The dangerous part is that instant stimulation creates temporary relief while silently destroying long-term drive. You feel good for a few seconds, but afterward your mental energy drops even lower. Then your brain searches for another quick reward to escape that discomfort again. That cycle repeats for months, sometimes years. And eventually, people start believing they lost their discipline forever. But researchers in behavioral psychology explain something important. The brain is adaptable. Just as it can be conditioned toward distraction, it can also be retrained toward focus, effort, and consistency. This is why disciplined people often seem calmer, more focused, and emotionally stable. They are not relying on motivation all the time. They simply stopped allowing constant stimulation to control their nervous system. And once you understand how disciplined people protect their mental energy, your entire view of productivity begins to change. The reason disciplined people seem different. Most people believe disciplined individuals wake up naturally, motivated every day. That is one of the biggest lies about high performance. Researchers who study behavior and consistency noticed something surprising. Highly disciplined people are not constantly fighting their minds. They are reducing the number of battles their minds need to fight. That changes everything. While most people overload their attention from the moment they wake up, disciplined individuals protect their mental energy aggressively. They understand that focus is limited, emotional control is limited, attention is limited, and every unnecessary distraction consumes resources the brain will need later. This is why their routines often look boring from the outside. Less noise, less chaos, less overstimulation, more Intentionality. Experts in cognitive performance explain that disciplined people usually remove friction before relying on willpower. They organize environments to reduce temptation. They simplify decisions. They avoid constant interruptions. They create systems that make focus easier and distraction harder, because they know something most people ignore. Discipline is heavily influenced by environment. Behavior scientists observe this pattern repeatedly in habit formation studies. Humans naturally adapt to the conditions surrounding them. If your environment constantly pushes stimulation, distraction, and easy rewards, your brain eventually follows that direction automatically. This is why trying to build discipline inside a chaotic environment feels exhausting. Your nervous system keeps getting pulled in opposite directions, and disciplined people understand another important principle. They do not chase motivation all day. They protect momentum. Most people destroy their own momentum without noticing. They interrupt focused work to check notifications. They switch tasks every few minutes. They consume stimulation during breaks instead of allowing mental recovery. Then they wonder why their energy collapses so fast. Disciplined individuals avoid this trap. They respect concentration. They protect deep focus. They allow boredom to exist without immediately escaping it. That last part is critical. Psychologists studying attention notice that people who constantly avoid boredom often weaken their ability to tolerate effort. But disciplined individuals train the opposite response. They teach the brain that discomfort is not danger. Silence is not suffering. Slow progress is not failure. And over time, the brain adapts. Focus becomes easier. Mental resistance decreases. Consistency becomes more natural. This is why discipline eventually starts looking effortless from the outside. What people are really seeing is a nervous system that stopped drowning in constant overstimulation. And once you understand that, the next question becomes unavoidable. How do you actually reset a mentally exhausted brain in a world designed to keep it overloaded every single day? How to reset your mental energy. Most people try to recover mental energy the wrong way. They look for more entertainment, more scrolling, more stimulation, more distraction. But researchers studying cognitive recovery discovered something important. The brain does not recover through constant consumption. It recovers through reduction. Your mind needs space to repair itself. That means the first step is not adding more productivity techniques. The first step is removing what keeps exhausting your nervous system every day. Start with silence. Not complete isolation from the world, just moments without noise, content, notifications, or constant input. Specialists in cognitive performance explain that silence allows the brain to stabilize attention, reduce stress signals, and reorganize mental activity more efficiently. Most people never experience real silence anymore. Their brain stays busy from morning until sleep. Then comes one of the most powerful resets for mental exhaustion: reducing dopamine overload. This does not mean eliminating pleasure from your life. It means lowering the frequency of artificial stimulation. Fewer short videos, fewer unnecessary notifications, less compulsive checking, less random scrolling during moments of boredom. Because boredom itself is not the enemy. Researchers observe that when the brain stops receiving non-stop stimulation, attention slowly begins repairing itself. At first, silence feels uncomfortable. Slower activities feel boring. Focus feels difficult. But this happens because the brain is recalibrating after being conditioned to constant novelty, and this is where most people quit. They mistake recovery, discomfort for failure. But specialists explain that this temporary resistance is often a sign that the nervous system is beginning to stabilize again. Another powerful reset is monotasking. One task, one focus, one direction at a time. Studies on attention show that sustained focus consumes less mental energy than constant switching between tasks. The brain works more efficiently when attention remains stable instead of fragmented. Movement also matters more than most people realize. Physical exercise is not only about the body. Researchers observe that regular movement improves emotional regulation, attention control, stress recovery, and mental clarity. Even simple walks without digital stimulation help the brain recover from cognitive overload. And one of the strongest mental resets is surprisingly simple. Stop consuming the moment you feel discomfort. Most people escape stress instantly. They grab the phone, open another app, search for stimulation. But disciplined individuals train a different response. They stay present long enough for the discomfort to pass naturally. That is how mental resilience grows. Little by little, your brain relearns how to tolerate effort, silence, patience, and deep focus again. And once this process begins, something unexpected happens. You start feeling a level of mental clarity and emotional control that most people have not experienced in years, which is exactly why the next challenge can completely change the way you think, focus, and live in only 24 hours. The 24-hour mental detox challenge. For the next 24 hours, I want you to do something most people are no longer capable of doing. Reduce stimulation on purpose. Not forever, just for one day, because researchers studying attention and behavioral recovery notice that even short periods of reduced stimulation can dramatically improve mental clarity, emotional stability, and focus regulation. The brain begins calming down the moment constant input decreases. But you need to take this challenge seriously. For 24 hours, stop feeding your mind non-stop noise. No endless scrolling. No short videos every few minutes. No compulsive checking. No background content playing all day. Use your phone only when necessary. Remove unnecessary notifications. Sit in silence during meals. Walk without consuming content. Allow your brain to exist without constant entertainment for a while. At first, something uncomfortable will happen. Your mind will resist. You will feel urges to check the phone for no reason. You will feel restless during silence. Your brain will search for stimulation automatically. Behavior specialists explain that this reaction is normal because your nervous system became dependent on constant novelty and rapid dopamine spikes. Most people never notice how strong this dependency became until silence exposes it. But if you continue through the discomfort, something starts changing surprisingly fast. Your thoughts slowed down. Your attention becomes clearer. Your emotional tension decreases. Simple tasks stop feeling so heavy. Researchers observe that when the brain experiences fewer rapid stimuli, attention systems begin recovering sensitivity again. This is why many people suddenly feel calmer, more focused, and mentally lighter after even short periods away from overstimulation. You also begin noticing something disturbing: how much mental energy was being stolen from you every day without permission. The random checking, the compulsive consumption, the constant interruptions, the invisible anxiety created by non-stop stimulation. For many people, this challenge becomes the first moment in years where their brain finally breathes again. And the most important part is this: the goal is not becoming perfect. The goal is proving to yourself that your mind can still operate without depending on constant stimulation to feel alive. Because once you experience real mental clarity again, you start understanding something powerful. Discipline was never completely gone. Your brain was simply buried under layers of exhaustion, noise, distraction, and that realization changes the way you see yourself forever. Discipline is not about force. IT is about energy. Most people are trying to force discipline with an exhausted brain. That is why they keep failing. They push themselves for a few days, rely on motivation, create impossible routines, and fight against their own mind until they burn out again. Then they blame themselves. They think they lack willpower. They think other people are naturally stronger. But specialists in behavioral psychology explain that discipline becomes unstable when mental energy is constantly depleted. An exhausted mind always looks for escape. That is why overstimulated people struggle to stay consistent even when they genuinely want to change. Their brain is already overloaded before the real work even begins. Every distraction feels more attractive. Every difficult task feels heavier. Every setback feels emotionally amplified. And this creates a painful cycle. The more exhausted the mind becomes, the more discipline feels impossible. The less disciplined someone feels, the more frustrated and emotionally drained they become. Then they escape through more stimulation, which creates even more exhaustion. Researchers studying human behavior notice something important about people with long-term consistency. They do not spend all their energy fighting themselves internally. Instead, they protect the conditions that allow discipline to survive. They protect sleep, they protect focus, they protect silence. They protect attention, they protect emotional stability, because they understand something most people ignore. Discipline is deeply connected to energy management. A calm and regulated nervous system makes better decisions. A clear mind tolerates discomfort more easily. A focused brain resists distractions with less effort. This is why high performers often appear emotionally controlled under pressure. It is not because they never feel stress. It is because they reduce unnecessary mental overload before it destroys their focus. And there is another truth people rarely talk about. Your brain is always adapting to the life you repeat. If you repeat distraction every day, your mind adapts to distraction. If you repeat impulsive stimulation every day, your mind adapts to impulsiveness. But if you repeat focus, intentionality, silence, emotional control, and difficult effort consistently, the brain slowly adapts to that too. This is not motivational thinking. Researchers observed this pattern repeatedly through studies involving neuroplasticity and habit formation. The brain changes according to repeated behavior. That means your current mental state is not permanent. Your exhaustion is not your identity. Your lack of focus is not fixed forever. And once you realize that discipline is built by protecting your mental energy instead of constantly attacking yourself, the entire process of change starts becoming more realistic, sustainable, and powerful. But there is one final truth. Most people still refuse to confront, and ignoring it may quietly destroy their future without them noticing. The warning most people will ignore. Right now, millions of people are slowly losing control of their own minds without realizing it. Not because they are unintelligent, not because they are incapable, because they are constantly distracted, mentally overloaded, emotionally drained, and neurologically conditioned to live in survival mode every single day. And the terrifying part is that modern life keeps rewarding this behavior. Constant consumption looks normal. Mental exhaustion looks normal. Attention problems look normal. Emotional numbness looks normal. Living without focus, clarity, discipline, or direction has become so common that people stopped questioning it. But researchers studying attention, performance, and human behavior continue observing the same pattern. A distracted brain becomes easier to control, easier to manipulate, easier to exhaust, and eventually, easier to keep trapped in cycles of impulsive behavior, low productivity, emotional instability, and dependency on stimulation. This is why protecting your mind is no longer optional, it is survival. Every day, your attention is being fought over. Every day, companies compete to keep your brain stimulated for as long as possible. Every day, your mental energy is being drained by systems specifically designed to capture your focus and keep you emotionally reactive. And if you never learn how to protect your nervous system, your ability to think clearly, stay disciplined, and build a meaningful life slowly disappears underneath the noise. But here is the difference between people who remain mentally trapped and people who regain control. At some point, disciplined individuals become aware of what is happening. They stop living on autopilot. They stop feeding every impulse. They stop allowing distraction to control their emotions, focus, and behavior. And little by little, they rebuild a mind capable of deep focus, emotional control, patience, clarity, and consistency again. Not through motivation, through awareness and intentional action. Because the modern world rewards distracted people with temporary comfort, but it rewards focused people with freedom. And the truth is that most people will ignore everything you heard today. They will continue drowning their mind in noise until exhaustion becomes their permanent state. But the moment you begin protecting your attention, reducing overstimulation, and rebuilding mental clarity, you gain something incredibly rare in this generation: control over your own mind. And once someone regains that control, discipline stops feeling impossible. It becomes inevitable.